Hey, my friends, I hope you're well, and thanks so much for being here. I have been working on a new project. Just a few days ago, submitted the manuscript for my fourth book. I wrote Deconverted, published it in 2012, Sacred Cows 2015. It was like 2.5 years ago we did Ghost Stories, which is really mostly an audiobook. And I've been working on a fourth one. It's funny, I started like 2 years ago. And right after I got into it, I hit this creative wall. You ever do that? If you do creative work, you know what that's like. I mean, it's a great idea. I thought I was all over it. I thought I was teed up and ready to produce the material. And I wrote a few chapters and I hit a brick freaking wall. And then I punished myself. You suck. You're terrible. You don't have any ideas left. What's wrong with you? You have nothing to offer this community. Why don't you just cancel everything? Like I'm being totally dramatic about it, you know? And last year, fourth quarter of last year, all of a sudden, I reopened the Word document that I'd started. And lightning struck. And I was like, I know how to finish. I know how to do this. I know exactly what I want to say. All the ideas are coming. This is now once again fertile ground. And I couldn't stop typing. I couldn't stop writing. I couldn't stop. Finished the manuscript and submitted it for copy editing just a few days ago. The book should be out in April or May, and I am jazzed. I am so excited. Oh, yeah. Somebody in chat said, Seth, reopen the Word. Oh, yeah. Open that Word, and I got myself a revelation from on high. It just came down and fertilized my brain. Yes, there will be an audiobook of it. And yes, I will read it for you. I don't trust somebody else to read my book. Are you kidding? I know, like, I hear it in my head when I write it, and I know how I want it delivered. It's coming. I'm not even going to give you the title yet. I just need to wait a little bit longer, but it's coming. And it's going to resonate with a lot of people, and it's going to piss some people in the atheist community. It's going to piss them off. And the comment sections are going to go crazy, and everybody's going to argue, and I might even get unfriended by a few people. But, you know, if you get unfriended over an idea, how dogmatic is your thinking? I mean, there are some people that have extreme ideas, and I understand wanting to partition yourself off from that. But, I mean, am I that guy, really? Am I that guy? I'm not that guy. Now, I'm the guy that's approaching in good faith. We can have a conversation. We can have even a passionate disagreement. But when someone's like, oh, you know what? He disagrees with me. I'm going to have to unfriend and block him. I don't understand that. I don't get that. Hell, there are people on my pages that drive me a little crazy, and they exist. You know, we all know someone. They exist. I just mute them. Like, you don't have to go and unfriend them. Unless they're just being toxic to other people, then bye. Don't let it hit you. You know? What's that saying? Don't let it hit you where the good Lord split you. I twist it. It's don't let it hit you where evolution split you. But you get what I'm saying. Some people, it's like, bye, you know, this is a net gain if you're not a part of my community. But mostly you just mute them. Just hit mute. Don't have to watch. Don't have to listen. It's no skin off your teeth. You don't derail, you know. I unfriend you is in many ways kind of a Shakespearean statement, you know, a dramatic kind of, and not in all cases, but in some cases, right? And there will be some people who they'll see the title of the new book and they will be like, can't do it. Can't be friends with that man. Unfriend. Don't let it hit you. I'm just saying. I should have a title and more information in the month of March, and I hope I'm going to be shameless. I will get on my hands and knees and beg you to support the book. Because if it gets seen, the rankings go up on Amazon and Audible. And if the rankings go up, it gets seen, right? And the more people see it, the more people are introduced to these ideas, this community, to non-belief in the supernatural, to humanism. I mean, I'm not completely selfless in the desire to be successful. I want the book to be successful. I want to make my money back and then some, but I also just want it to succeed. And so I'm going to beg everybody when it comes out, please support the book. Please send your funds to the Save the Andrews Family Foundation and buy that book today. I can't promise you will get manna from heaven or blessings from on high, but you would have my deepest and sincere thanks. And then when you're done with it, go leave a review, an honest review. It's amazing how many people won't crack my books and they'll leave a review. You can tell the religious people, 1 star, this person is in rebellion against Jesus. I haven't read the book, but I know he's going straight to hell in a handbasket. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. He's going straight to hell. Didn't read the book, reviewed it anyway. Makes me crazy. There have been campaigns against atheist books. People in religious organizations or Facebook pages or whatever who have apparently a shit ton of time on their hands, they just decide they're just going to go and just downvote everything because, well, we see it on Facebook. We see pages targeted by hugely, monumentally tissue-skinned people who cannot abide the fact that atheists exist and organized atheists exist and atheist pages exist. And so their way to cope with the idea that they are supposed to share this world and to demonstrate that for some reason their indestructible God needs defending, they go through and they target all that stuff. So anyway, I'm barely checking the chat down here. Forgive me, I'm monologuing. I will get to the switchboard in just a few minutes, but if it's okay, I'd like to vent just a little bit. I'm not sure yet. You'll know in the title, but when it releases, but I thought about titling this show, What's Wrong with People? What's wrong with people? You ever have that feeling? You see how someone behaves, or you see how they act, or you see what they do, and you're like, what's wrong with people? Las Vegas, Nevada. There's a group of people in Las Vegas that decided to take 25 pigeons and glue Make America Great Again hats to their heads. Actually, as 24 had the MAGA hat, and there was the 25th one, they took a Trump wig and they glued it to the bird and set these birds free. They weren't even pro-MAGA people. They're just trolls. They're just looking for publicity. They did it with cowboy hats last year. These poor birds flying around with hats glued to their heads, and we chuckle, ha, 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 that's it. But when you think about it, what's wrong with you? It makes it harder to fly, and who knows how else it affects them. And, fortunately, I guess they're coming back. They're pigeons. They're coming back to where they were released, to that area. And there are animal rights advocates who are getting the birds and taking, I don't know, whatever solvent gets the hat off the bird, so that the bird doesn't have to wear the MAGA hat. What's wrong with people? You ever feel that? More bird-related news. Brisbane, Australia. There's somebody noticed there was this parrot who kept trying to fly. Parrot's name is Wei Wei. Turns out the parrot's owner had the bird's wings clipped. I guess this is really common, so that the bird doesn't fly away. But they clipped the wings so severely that the bird was in tremendous pain, trying to fly, falling so often that the bird actually injured itself, ends up at a veterinarian who says, holy shit, who did this to the bird? Wei Wei is in great pain. So the vet constructed prosthetic wings made of donated feathers, and it cleaned and sterilized the feathers, I guess. And then surgically attached this wing extension to Wei Wei. And Wei Wei can now fly again. What's wrong with people? Right? What's wrong with people? Does the owner not realize the pain and injury that he has caused? Birds flying around injuring itself. What the hell? Just a few days ago, Mad Mike Hughes, the guy who is the flat earther, who builds a rocket, homemade rocket. I heard he was a good guy. I heard he's a nice guy, and I heard he's got an interesting story. And I'm not making fun of his death. I don't celebrate his death, right? But he's a flat earther, builds this rocket. We did a story or two about him in the last year. I think he was in our end of year broadcast, year in review. Builds this rocket to go up, 1,500 feet? So that he can demonstrate that the earth has no curvature and that the earth is indeed flat? Is he for real? Like the whole time you and I are thinking to ourselves, how is this the solution? Why not buy a $350 economy ticket on Southwest Airlines, right? Where you're at 35,000 feet. And you can look down and see the curvature of the earth. Instead, he builds a rocket. Okay, fine. This is his shtick. Stuntman, Mad Mike Hughes. Okay. So he launches his rocket. I'm sure you saw the story. He launches his rocket. It clips the ladder that he had used to enter the rocket as it takes off, which alters its trajectory. The chute deploys prematurely, so it's not even there. He goes up in the air, and he comes down and hits terra firma at who knows how many hundreds of miles an hour, and he's horribly killed. Horribly killed. Now, I get the attraction for us to look and say, this is a net gain for the IQ of the human species. I understand the attraction in doing that. I'm tempted myself. The Darwin Award jokes write themselves. What's wrong with people? What's wrong with people? A guy named Ryan State. It's a few weeks ago. True story. Guy was carrying out a scam to get free hotel rooms. You know what he did to try to get comped rooms? He loaded a suitcase. He loaded a suitcase with a bunch of mice and hamsters and stuff. He stuck him in a suitcase, and he got the room. And when he went up to his room, he opened the suitcase, and he set all the rodents free in the room and in the hallway. And then he called to complain to management that there were rodents in his hotel room. I guess he got comped a few times before he got caught. Poor rodents, they're just running around. Yeah, I don't think he bothered to even retrieve them. He just got new rodents. What's wrong with people? Did you see that story from a few months ago? People are tanning their rectums. They're tanning their anuses. Instagram user named Metaphysical Megan goes public with this ancient Taoist practice that's supposed to fast-track the positive health benefits of spending more time in the sun. But instead of spending a whole day in the sun, you're supposed to strip off your pants and your underwear. You lie on your back, you kick your legs up into a V, and you allow the sun to hit your rectum for an hour, I guess. They say like an hour of rectum sunning is supposed to be the equivalent of a whole day in the sun getting those beneficial rays which improve mood and do all those things. People are sunning their anuses. What's wrong with people? What's wrong with people? There are photographs. There were photographs on the internet. Karl Tereshn is his name, 23 years old, serves in the Russian military. He wanted big biceps. He was in pretty good shape. He's in the military, but he wanted big biceps. So he decided to cheat. This is a true story. There were photographs of this. He, I think every day, for who knows how long, injected his arms with this Vaseline-like gel to swell the bicep area. The pictures are ridiculous. He's Popeye-esque, except even more so, okay? He inflated his arms with so much jelly, all right? And you should have seen it. It looked like someone had attached a frozen turkey to his shoulder blade. He did it so many times. He did it so many times that he had to be rushed to the emergency room, and surgeons had to try to extract this stuff because it had killed the muscle inside his body and he was dying. They retrieved from his arms 3 pounds of dead muscle and 3 liters of petroleum jelly, and they required 2 more surgeries just to get the rest of it out. What's wrong with people? Bruce McConville, Ottawa, successful Canadian businessman, going through a nasty divorce. This is common. Divorce is not a pretty process. But he and his ex-wife, well, they're on really, really, really bad terms. He apparently is successful enough that his ex and children were awarded $1 million in alimony and child support. But he was so bitter and angry and pissed off at his wife that he went to the bank. He went to several banks, actually, where his various accounts were located, and he withdrew $1 million. Bruce McConville of Ottawa. It's $1 million Canadian, that's about 750 American dollars. Just pulled it out of the bank in cash, okay? Then he goes home and he makes 2 bonfires and he sets the money on fire. He would rather burn the cash than give it to his wife and kids. Now, I get, maybe he got screwed in the divorce, maybe there's something else going on. I'm not taking her side necessarily. I'm saying, holy shit, there's a children's hospital somewhere, that could have used $1 million. There's a charity or a cause given toward cancer research. It's gone, it's vaporized, it's ash, it will never be, it's useless, it's gone. What's wrong with people? He's not the only guy in divorce court that's asking for weird shit or going through weird shit. There's a guy in Iowa. His name is David Ostrom. He went to family court. And he was mad. He said his wife had destroyed him legally. All right. So in court, he's standing in front of a judge at Iowa District Court. According to a story in the Des Moines Register, this was released in January. He asked the judge if he could engage his ex-wife and her attorney in trial by combat using katana swords. What's wrong with people? I've just been going through this conversation in my mind. Postman in Virginia. It's a mail carrier who was overwhelmed by his job. His name is Jason Dela Cruz, lives in Virginia Beach. True story. He's a mailman who wasn't able to get all the mail delivered, and he was frustrated. Does he go to his supervisor and say, I'm overwhelmed, can you give me a hand? Does he ask for better training? Does he see if he can offload some of it somewhere? Does he try to solve the problem? No. You know what he does? He gets a storage unit. And he stows nearly 5,000 pieces of mail in the store. He just stacked it. He just stacked the mail there. You know, he just couldn't get to it. He wasn't fast enough to deliver it. There weren't enough hours. Now I'll just stack them here in the storage unit. We got bills, legal documents, insurance notifications, tax return information, letters from loved ones, online purchases. He just stacked them. He just put them in a storage unit. What's wrong with people? Have you heard about the electrical outlet challenge? This is true. People do this. We've heard of the Tide Pod challenge and the Cinnamon challenge and all these challenges online, right? Fire investigators in Massachusetts have had to go out and issue a public safety message to people, okay? A public safety message that said, don't take the electrical outlet challenge. Okay, here's what the challenge is. You take a plug from an electrical cord and you stick it partially in the outlet, just partially so that the prongs are partially exposed, okay? Then you try to produce a spark by taking a penny and touching it to the exposed prongs. Not only do you have the potential of damaging the electrical wiring behind the wall, but, you will likely get electrocuted. And the fire department in Massachusetts has to go and tell people this will happen. What's wrong with people? I mean, I get being young and stupid. I get going through things that you shouldn't have survived. But this is just, you can see this train coming. You can see this train coming. It's electricity. It's electricity. What's wrong with people? And it's not just kids that were taking this kind of challenge, doing this kind of stuff. One more real fast, and I promise I'll get to the phones. Unidentified man in Halifax, West Yorkshire. He thought his car smelled bad, apparently. So he took an aerosol can of air freshener, all right? And he just blasted the interior of his vehicle. He just kept going. I don't know if he used the whole can, but he used a hell of a lot of the can. And then he got in the car and he lit a cigarette. The explosion. The explosion was felt for a block. It shattered the windows of his car and shook nearby buildings. He did survive with one hell of a story. But what's wrong with you? Anyway, that's what I've been going through lately. Just looking at the insanity of humanity and wondering what is going on here. What is happening? Has this kind of thing always existed and it's just in the Twitterverse where we get real-time information from all over the world? It's all sort of compacted. We get the consolidated version of just stupid. We get a daily packaged version of people doing incredibly ridiculous and destructive and idiotic things, and we just get it in real time. Is that what's happening? Or has humanity become more stupid? Let's go to the switchboard. I've taken up enough of your time. 816. Hi, you're on the Thinking
Hello.
Atheist podcast. What's your name?
My name's Chris.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for calling. What's on your mind today? It's kind of an anything goes show.
Well, I just wanted to call and say thank you for putting out these videos. It's actually a funny story how I found them.
What happened?
Well, I was having a conversation several years ago with my, at that time, teenage son, and I don't even know how it came up. And the discussion of God came up, and he told me, well, Mom, I'm an atheist. And I was like, what? Because I was raised very, very religious household. And I was like, you don't believe in God? And he goes, no. And I was like, well, why not? And he said, well, tell me why you do. And I felt like an idiot because I was just like, I had never thought about it. It was just something I'd just always taken as a given. And he said, come watch this video. And he put on YouTube, and it was one of your videos. And I said, who's this by? And he said, Seth Andrews. Now, we lived in Tulsa for several years. I remember hearing you on the radio.
Oh, you listened to me in my Christian radio days back then?
Yes,
Wow.
yes. My son was born at Hillcrest Medical Center.
Wow.
So, but it was, I was just like, really, son, you're going to put on the Christian radio guy to try to make me see why I should not believe in God?
Wow.
You know, and I watched it, and I felt like I have to tell you, I was quite a bit chagrined to go and have to look at my, you know, then teenage son, who obviously had his crap a little bit more together than I did, you know, and go, I was wrong.
Wow. So, I mean, were you doubting at all, or was this just like a freight train kind of thing?
I was raised in it. My mother is still extremely religious. And it was one of those things. I was a single parent. I had divorced from his father. I was working midnights constantly. I was attending university and trying to raise him. So it was like I had no time on my plate to even really question this. I mean, I know that sounds like such a lame excuse, but
it's not
it provided me with a good deal of comfort. You know, to think, oh, well, and I don't know, the thing that shocked me about it the most was just how lazy my thought process was with this. Do you see?
Oh, yeah. I've been down that road. Trust me. And it's not like you and I ask to not believe. I think we just got challenged and realized we were honest with ourselves. So.
Well, and my son, I had raised him his whole life to, I always told him, question anything anybody tells you. Authority, I don't care. Question it. And this was told from him to a small age because it would keep him safe. And I have to say, it did not behoove me as a parent to tell him to do this because it didn't stop him from questioning me.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to be the parent to give him answers like, because I said so.
I'm curious, do you remember which video it was that he showed you? I mean, there's a lot out there. I'm not putting you on the spot, but...
The first one, I think, it was one that you did with two other individuals.
Probably Matt Dillahunty and Aaron Raw, probably.
Yes, it absolutely was. And I've listened to you off and on since then when I can catch it. It's just one of those things that's like, I can't believe. And I had never, even though I was raised in it, I went to church camp every year. I had to, you know, I mean, it was just, my mom was like, you go to church. I don't care what church, you go to one. And it happened to be Baptist because she was a Baptist. But, I mean, it was just like, I had never questioned it. And she's still convinced I'm going straight to hell. But it's like, Mom, I just don't believe this shit anymore. I just don't.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And, you know, I had never sat down and read the Bible. You know, we would go to Sunday school. They would have you memorize. You know, I could probably still ramble off all the books of the Bible to you because we had to memorize them.
Yeah.
You know, as far as just the order in which they fell. You know, and, they give you a little reward or you get a little sticker because you could memorize this verse or whatnot. They didn't give a shit that we didn't know what they meant. And they cherry-picked ones. We didn't hear the horrible shit about slavery and, you know, them assassinating pregnant women and you know, them taking people's little girls as spoils of war. They didn't tell us any of that.
Your journey and my journey we have a lot of similarities. I think you and I have a lot in common besides just living in Tulsa. So that's cool. Well, thanks for the kind words. I mean, I'm desperate for the work to make a difference. That's huge for me. So thanks for that gift. I appreciate it very much.
And I'll definitely be going and purchasing your new book. I got your, the Sacred Cows one, and it was quite good. Very funny.
Thank you. Well, this
But
next
I'll let
one's
you go.
it's not as much comedy, but I think hopefully it's compelling. We'll see how it goes over. So if you have trouble finding it in
I'm an
April or
avid
May,
reader.
you have your people call my people. I'll hook you up. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you ever so much. You have a lovely day, and I'll let you get to people who may actually need questions answered.
Appreciate you. Thanks so much.
Have a great day.
You bet. Bye. Oh, that's beautiful. I mean, that's huge. It's what I've always wanted for this show and for the channel. I've got 423. You're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
Hello. You can call me, I guess, Eddie.
What's up, Eddie? What's on your mind, my friend?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you. I found your show. I found your show, and you introduced me to was it God Awful Movies?
Oh yeah,
and,
that's a classic. Classic show.
No, both of these shows have helped me survive so many hours of factory work. You have no idea.
That's what we do. We get you through the workday, man. Keep you sane.
Yeah. Anyway, on to my question. So I've tried to look this up a couple times for the comedy value. So you were big into Christian radio in the 80s, right? Or maybe not. You weren't in it. You were younger, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, I was a fan. I was a follower. I was very much immersed in the culture.
Yeah, so I've gotten bigger into punk rock in the last couple of years. A lot of big, hardcore bands in the 80s, Dead Kennedys, GBH, Misfits, Bad Religion was starting. I've always tried to find, the outrage to that kind of stuff, and I could never find it because nowadays no one really cares. I couldn't find any articles from back then calling it, how it's going to cause the kids to riot in the streets. I try to find that just to see how funny it would be, but most of it's stuff about, Christian punk rock, which is just the fact that exists hurts my brain.
Yeah, I think the band that comes to mind was called, there's one called One Bad Pig. That was Christian punk rock, but that's the only one that comes to my mind. But...
Yeah, I was just curious, what was the reaction back in the 80s when, maybe because it wasn't more mainstream, but I was just curious if there was a reaction back then.
No, not for punk. We didn't talk about it. It was all about metal. Everybody was losing their shit about Ozzy Osbourne and Iron Maiden and all those guys. They got all the press. Punk was off our radar. And it's possible that in the eyes of conservative Christianity, punk was a subset of hard rock because, they didn't make the distinction. It's all secular and there's guitars. And so we sort of oversimplified things. There wasn't a specific reaction that I know of to punk other than I think the industry produced a few bands that sold a few records, but mostly it was just terror and horror that Alice Cooper was coming to town and he's an agent of Beelzebub, that kind of thing. So.
Oh, no, God forbid, Alice Cooper.
Alice Cooper, who, have you ever heard him speak? He's like the most thoughtful, kind, sweet dude on the planet. Someone told me he was a pastor. I don't know if he's a pastor. Is that right?
No way. I don't know. I'm not really a big Alice Cooper fan.
Somebody look that up. I don't want to be the promoter of bad information. Somebody fact check me. Yeah. Don't take my word for it. But no, that's all I got on the punk rock thing, my friend.
Well, God forbid that you listened to Slayer back then. That probably would have gotten you crucified.
I would have probably been literally burned as a heretic. Back in the 1980s. It's true. So you take care of yourself. Thanks for the call, my friend.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. See you later.
You have good work.
512. Hi. Thanks for waiting. You're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
Hey, this is Zarock.
I can barely hear you. Tell me your name again.
Oh, sorry. This is Zarock.
Zarock. I think I played with your character on D&D once when I emerged from the faith.
I actually was calling about D&D, so that's great.
All right, cool. Zarock.
Have you actually played?
You need a subtitle, like Zarock, Bringer of Pain, or something, some sort of a descriptor. So, forgive me. Go ahead. What's your comment or question? What are you thinking?
Yeah. Have you ever played D&D?
Not really. I was raised to fear it, and then once I got out of it, it wasn't exactly my type of game, but I'd love to give it a shot. Somebody sent me an email once and asked if I would ever be interested in playing D&D with them, maybe online. Can you play online? And I said, I'm open to about anything. So.
Yeah, you can play online. That's usually how I play because I live out in the country and all my friends who play it are in different cities, so. Yeah, we play online, and it's got a system where you can roll dice, and it'll show the number up onto the screen for everybody, so nobody's cheating and all that kind of stuff.
Well, Zarock, how much of an investment does that require? Do I have to get into characters and all their backstory and all these other things? Because that's where they start to lose me. I'm not great with a long-term commitment, you know?
Yeah, definitely. You want to try to role play at least a little bit. Some people are quiet at the table, but that's fine. They just like to play the fighting part. Some people are more into getting into their character and putting on an accent and all that. But I definitely know people who just want to say, like, I'm the biggest badass and I can kill anybody who steps up to me, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's fine too.
I'd give it a shot. I mean, if it didn't require, if it wasn't like, you know, reading Tolkien, like I just don't have the bandwidth to get into something really thick like that. But if it was the kind of thing where I could jump in and play recreationally and not die immediately all the time, I might be open to it. But, you know, you guys are hardcore. I mean, if I show up, I'm easy meat, right? So
I'm a gentle DM. I tend to be I'm not a killer DM like some people. I tend to give my players second chances. If they screw up bad, I'll say, okay, your character didn't die, but he gets some scar and he gets to go on and fight another day. But anyway,
I like that. So you were Zarock the Benevolent, not the Bringer of Pain. I like that better. That's a good name for you. Yeah. Well, that's all I got on D&D, but you know, one day maybe I'll jump into the shallow end and see what it's like. Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Take care, brother.
Thank you.
Leroy Jenkins. That would be my D&D name. I mean, like I'm not a badass in any stretch. The games I play, by the way, if you want to subscribe, it's twitch.tv/Seth Andrews TTA, because Seth Andrews was already taken. But we go on every couple of days or so, and I'm playing Dead Space 3, and I played the demo, the free weekend of Dying Light, which is like The Walking Dead, and we'll play some Drawful just for kicks. It's a fun community and a nice distraction. Somebody in the chat, can you give me a D&D gamer name? Somebody give me something that I could use. If I was to sort of enter that realm. 308, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
Amanda.
Hi, Amanda. Thanks for waiting on me. What are you thinking? What's on your mind?
Oh, I actually have a couple of things, even going all the way back to your rant earlier in the podcast. First, I want to say thanks for introducing me my first audiobook I've ever listened to, which was the, I think, Kiefer Project that you read.
Oh, yeah. Lee Brevine's book that he had me read. It was a fiction sci-fi, sort of a fictional book that had deep religious themes in it. I'd never done a project like that. And I'm very self-conscious about it because I'm not a voice actor. I'm a narrator, so I'm reading the different characters, including a female with his deep voice. That becomes a challenge. Like, how do you do that? But hopefully you enjoyed the audiobook. So.
Oh, I did. And it has opened me up to so many more audiobooks. I listened to all of the Game of Thrones, Fire and Ice that it was based off of, and more Hitchens and Dawkins.
Cool. Yeah, I do it. It's funny. Some people are like, audiobooks are a cheat. And I'm like, they're not. You still get the very same content read to you, but you, instead of having to park somewhere, and I love reading paper books or Kindles, but I love also being able to take a long road trip and listen to an immersive book in the car or in the headset on a walk with Linus. I mean, it's cool. So I'm glad you encountered that book. It was an honor to be a part of that project. So.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit. And then I borrowed out the Sacred Cows book to a friend, and she immediately went out and bought Deconverted because she's more of a sit down and read.
I did not set this call up. I did not stage her. I'm not paying her to say that. I just wanted on the record that I didn't set you up. That's huge for me.
Oh, no. Oh, no, I'll be recommending your new one as soon as I'm done with it as well. And there's no harm in shameless recommendations either.
Well, read it before you recommend it. I might fail you, but I think it'll be I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. What else was on your mind? What did you bring to the table today?
You mentioned Dead Space a second ago. Have you seen any of Dead Space's animated movies that are like an hour and a half long?
No way. So doesn't Halo do that? Don't they have Halo features of some kind?
I'm actually not sure. I just found it in a $5 grab bend at a Hastings bookstore before they went out of business. And then I found the follow-up just on Amazon. You just have to make sure that they play in your American DVD players before you buy it.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I almost said Outlast. Dead Space has long-form animated features?
Yes.
And I find those
there are two of them, I believe.
YouTube or Amazon. Do I buy them? Where are they?
I found them on Amazon, the second one. The other one was just in a $5 grab bend at a local store I have here in town. But I think it's Dead Space and Dead Space Aftermath is possibly what they're called. I'm trying to find my DVD cover just on a quick look, but I can't find it while I'm looking quickly right now. But I think that's what they're called.
I'll Google it. I can go find it. I mean, I was a fan of 1 and 2, Dead Space 1 and 2. 3 is a little more generic, but it's not a bad game. So yeah, I'd be interested in all of that to give me something to watch in between Better Call Saul. And we just started watching Westworld on HBO. I know I'm late to that party, but holy shit, that's a good show. Season 1.
I haven't seen any of it, but I watched the old original Westworld movie from like the 70s, and I enjoy watching weird old movies, and I like that one a lot. And I'll get to that one eventually, but I've seen the old one.
Well, the Yul Brynner version is so different. I mean, it just very much indicative. It's a time capsule for the 1970s. But I think the commentary about intelligent life, about morality, and the morality of how we, and no spoilers here, but the morality of how we deal with potentially sentient beings that are created, artificially created. It opens up this huge Pandora's box, and it makes for great sort of social commentary. And I don't know if season 2 is any good, or season 3 is about to release, but season 1 is fascinating. I cannot stop watching. So once I'm done with season 1, we'll go take a look and see if Dead Space is something I could fill in the gap with. Okay?
Right. And then what's wrong with people? I guess I got just one more quick thing.
Yeah.
In my hometown, what's wrong with people? There was an individual that showed up in the newspaper that had driven himself to the police station because he thought the seats in his car were moving because he was having a bad trip on meth. Basically turned himself in and then admitted to throwing his meth out of the window, getting an extra charge for obstruction of evidence.
What's wrong with people? You know what I'm saying?
What's wrong with people?
What's wrong with people? It just feels good to say it. Like, just to vent a little bit,
right?
Damn it. That's a great story. Thanks for sharing it on the show. Thanks for the kind words and the heads up on the game. And I'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Yep. Bye.
All right. See you later. Another story about someone driving. Another one out of Massachusetts. Kid named Elijah McKinney stole a car from a car dealership. This is not anything that's radical. He stole a car from the car dealership. Crashed the car on the getaway, okay? The thing is that he stole the car from Herb Chambers' Lamborghini in Boston. The car he jacked up is worth $200,000. What's wrong with people? 606. Thanks for waiting. You're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. What's your name?
Oh, my name is Jordan, Seth. How are you today?
I'm very well. Doing good. Life is good. Talk to me. What's on your mind?
Yeah. Well, my accent usually gives away pretty quick that I'm from Kentucky. I'm from Eastern Kentucky, and I'm calling today for some advice. If you could give me some.
Man, I can't guarantee it'll be good advice, but let's talk like real people.
I'll take anything.
But let's see what's up. What's on your mind?
You and I went through some very similar, a similar journey at the same time. I was a youth minister at a Baptist church from when I was young, and I started losing my faith about 2009 and 2010. And the worst thing that I ever did for my faith was read the Bible all the way through.
That'll do it.
And when I read it all the way through, I was like, what in the world is this?
Yeah.
Killing kids and all this stuff. And, I had some bad experiences in the church that made me lose my faith in not only God, but humanity. And, but I got away from my hometown. My hometown is deep in the mountains of Eastern Kentucky, and it's a beautiful little place. But, gosh, the mindset's terrible. Well, recently I've had to move back here, and I feel like I am one of one. I'm the only atheist in this area that I know, and a lot of people know that I am. And Seth, you probably know what I'm talking about. When you lose your faith, a lot of people will say to you, "Oh, well, you were never a Christian to begin with," but you were. I was a sold out, soldier for Christ. It reminds me of that Striper song. I'll never forgive you for exposing me to Striper. But
Soldiers Under Command. Oh yeah, I had the album.
Oh,
yeah,
God. So much later. Anyway, but they say that to you, but your faith was real. And let's see, I've come back here and I find myself being attacked by them all the time. And I find myself doing this really weird thing. I'm falling into their patterns while knowing that the faith is not true. And self-censoring my thoughts, like I did when I was a member of the faith, but not believing at all. And it's driving me crazy. I remember it reminds me of that video. One of the first videos I ever saw from you was Christianity Made Me Talk Like an Idiot.
Yeah, speech I gave.
And man, that resonated with me on a level that you could not understand.
We both talk the talk, right? Yeah.
Yeah, talk the talk. I remember so many wild things that I believed, but I'm afraid that I'm not afraid that I'll fall back into faith, but I'm afraid that I will lose that independence that I gained, that autonomy that I gained when I left here. And, I talk, when you lose your faith, you're sold out, you're married to that. And then when you lose it, the first step a lot of people go through is extreme anger. When I lost my faith, I was so angry. And I remember I would sit outside and I would just scream at the sky and I would cry. But over time, that anger goes away. So when I look at these people, even when they're attacking me, I feel sorry for them. And I still love them. These are my family members. These are my friends and things like that. But I don't know how to navigate. I don't know how to navigate these interactions that I'm having with grown adults anymore, because none of it makes any sense. And if you try to talk to them about it, or even say, well, this is my position, and this is what I believe, and then it elicits an almost violent reaction. And I was just wondering, what is your advice for navigating interactions with people like that, while simultaneously not, as counterintuitive as it is, not hurting them in the process and not driving them away from me?
Well, some of that's on them. Those who know me probably are able to answer this question already. They know what I'm about to say to you. But I think the first thing is, and somebody in the chat brought this up, and there's some truth to it, because I used to say that I lost my faith. But if you look at it objectively, it's not like I lost it, like it was there and now it's gone kind of thing. It was really more of a purposeful thing. I found better information and realized I no longer believed. And while, I don't get too semantic about those types of things, I think there is a liberation in framing it in that way that I didn't really lose anything. What I did is I became introduced to better ideas. And that's I think a healthy exercise. So, when you're framing it in your own skull, you can say however you want, but did you lose your faith, or did you realize that you no longer believed in superstitious ideas and you had a better grasp on a larger world? And, that's a positive way to look at what happened to you. As far as everybody else, you're speaking my language. I look around and I'm like, well, how do I navigate having almost everybody in my immediate family be a devout, Bible-thumping evangelical? And the truth is that there's nothing really I can control except for me. So if they're going to stomp and shout and froth and cause waves and flip out because I disagree, that's really on them. And if they're going to inject awfulness into my life, that's on them too. And I get to decide how much of it I put up with. And there's a line, and I'll warn you, don't cross it. You don't get to do this. And if they do, I'm going to shut you down, because, just because we share a bloodline doesn't give you permission to do that kind of stuff. And we grieve those losses. We wish we had those friendships. We wish we were as close as we were to our mother and father and siblings and those kinds of things. But they are the ones making it untenable. You're likely not there with a sledgehammer saying, be an atheist. More than that, I'll bet you're like, just accept me for who I am and realize I've got a valid point or a valid gripe, and let's all exist in the same space. Is that where you're coming from?
And and it's not even, I'm not even, how to say it, forward with my beliefs, really. I've always been the kind of guy that was just even keeled, and what you believe is what you believe. What I believe, I don't even want to talk about it, But I live in a place where everything is steeped in religion, and everything gets tied back into it, and it takes mental acrobatics that shock the mind. Cirque du Soleil cannot perform acrobatics like this.
Well, that's Kentucky. You got the Ark Encounter and the Creation Museum there. I know the culture. Yeah. So and the problem is that I love it. I do love it, but I intend to leave here again. I'm just here. I'm trying to start my own business and things like that, and that's neither here nor there. But I love the mountains. They're beautiful. There's so many things here. Red River Gorge is here. Mammoth Cave, all these beautiful places. And the people really are deep down really good. It's their fear. They're afraid. Yeah.
And if they would just hush for a minute and chill out, like I tell people all the time, I wish I could go back to my young self that was so worried about the sky man upstairs taking down everything wrong that I was doing. I wish I could just go to him and shake him and say, chill out, man. Just relax and enjoy your life and stop. If they would just do that, it would be amazing.
I think they're insecure. You make them insecure, right? They're not used to having to defend their position. So when you're in the room for the first time in many of their lives, they feel a threat. They feel challenged. Well, what's that say about their position? If God is genuinely the invincible God, what are they worried about? And the fact that they're worried, I think, tells me that underneath the skin, they probably are kind of nervous. I can't really get you through the journey that you're going through, except for the advice that I would try to, as best I can, make your journey about you, to set boundaries. And you can do what I did, is to try to compensate for the lack of community personally, geographically, and try to maybe make up for it online. You think the Thinking Atheist community is just a podcast, but it's also, for me, It's a lifeline. It is oxygen. It is a reminder that I'm not alone. It is family.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be this community, but the internet is connecting people in a way that I think is very therapeutic and necessary. And that's a resource I'd encourage you to use, okay?
I really appreciate it, Seth. Thank you for your advice.
All right, my friend, you take care, and I appreciate you calling the show.
All right. I appreciate your words. Thank you very much.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
I think that should be the Kentucky State slogan, something he said. He said, y'all just hush. Y'all just hush. Hush your mouth. Shut it. Shut up and listen. Few more calls. 314. You're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
Hi, this is Brandon. How's it going, Seth?
Brandon, what's on your mind?
So you're talking about you're talking about pretty much crazy people, and one thing that I was kind of interested in.
No, let me clarify. I was talking about stupid people, but there's a difference. But go ahead.
Well, all right, I was trying to be polite. So a little while back, I was groups and finding communities of what the most asinine views are, and I'm wondering what are some of the most asinine communities that you have. I'm talking like not even religious communities, but just communities that like stuff that even puts homeopathy and that kind of stuff to shame.
I don't know. It's everywhere. Honestly, when you mention homeopathy, the anti-vaccine community, and there's a whole culture of them, makes me crazy. The pseudoscience, the homeopathy, the alternative medicine community that's like, screw the man, we're going to go and have crystals and, breathe in incense and use shark cartilage and, that kind of stuff, acupuncture. Those communities make me crazy. There's just so much out there. I don't even know where to start. But I do believe that community is important. And this is hard for a lot of atheists to accept, especially those who've been burned by the church, because they're averse to connecting in a communal way because they are afraid it's a religious exercise. But I like the idea of sharing life. So while there are frustrating communities, there are also some wonderful communities and necessary communities. And so, rather than curse the darkness, maybe we can go out and find some light. Okay?
Oh, yeah. So my thing is, like I said, I like to sometimes just see what's out there. Because, I think, for me personally, the craziest community that I found is a group of people who drink their own urine.
You hear that silence? You hear that?
Yeah.
Right? What's wrong with people?
Oh, shoot. And then I found another group that was related. Kombucha, you take, fermented, tea, and it creates this mold, and they call it a mushroom. And I found a guy who created a group to promote that same thing, but with urine. And I'm like, what is that?
Wait a minute, I missed it. What? I'm sorry, I'm afraid to ask. What are they doing with urine?
Washing with it, drinking it. That's pretty much the two main things they do with it.
You'll forgive me if I don't Google that. Yeah, you'll just have to forgive me for that. But
that's
I now know something that I did not know 5 minutes ago, and I appreciate the enlightenment. So yeah, there's batshittery everywhere we look. We just got to do our best to buckle down and.
No problem. I'm always on the quest to search for the craziest stuff. If anybody in the comments on Facebook knows of any, don't list specific group names, but if you know any crazy groups or communities out there, give me a general idea of what some stuff people have found. I'd love to read some of that stuff.
All right. We did a show I think it's 6-7 years ago called The Weirdest Websites in the World. I think you can search it on Spreaker or on YouTube. It's out there somewhere. But appreciate your call. I'm going to move on, my friend. Have a wonderful day.
Oh, no problem. Glad I could teach you something. Take care.
See you later. You urine drinkers, y'all hush. Y'all just hush. 765. You're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
Hey, Seth. This is Doug. I'm out here in Indiana.
Doug, I'm still in shock. I'm still sort of reeling from the last call. I'm sorry. People bathe in their own pee. What's the matter with these people? What's wrong with people?
I have no clue. I just wanted to give a shout out to the guy in Eastern Kentucky. That was a very good speech, and what you came up with was awesome rebuttal. And that's the way I felt many times going through church. And it's kind of hard to adjust to life after coming out as an atheist. And it's just amazing. I love your program. I love Christopher Hitchens, man. He's the one that broke me and got my mind to thinking. And then I followed up with you, and then I found Matt Dillahunty, and man, my mind and curiosity has grown so much. And I just want to thank you guys for everything you do. And my question is, I recently talked to a chaplain, and he tries to give me the proof of God exists by something about a giraffe, and then something about the human being can't evolve without having parents. And I was just kind of like mind blown, and that's what's been working on my mind, and I wanted to ask you that question.
Wait a minute. We can't evolve without having parents? Like offspring, isn't offspring part of the evolutionary process? It's adaptation and the adaptations rather that most benefit our fitness are the ones that are passed on through generations, which requires parenting and offspring. I'm not sure I even understand the question. As far as the giraffe is concerned, what the fuck are they talking about? Have them Google the giraffe's laryngeal nerve, okay? There's a nerve in the giraffe's neck, and I learned this from biologist Abby Hafer. She's got a great book about unintelligent design. But this nerve is only required to travel about 14 inches in a giraffe's neck. But instead, the nerve goes all the way down the bottom of the neck and then all the way back up to the top of the neck. It's a huge waste. It's a tremendously poor design, and it doesn't make sense from an intelligent design perspective, but it makes a hell of a lot of sense if you see that the giraffe evolved from other creatures. And so, the giraffe is a lot of things, but it's not proof of a God or intelligent designer. I don't think your friend's listening, but I would encourage, what is the name of Abby's book? Let me look it up real fast because it might be worth passing off. Abby Hafer. Hold, please.
I will definitely look it up.
Unintelligent design. Yeah.
Well, what his argument was about the giraffe is the giraffe can't lay down or it would die. And I was like, well, that doesn't prove that it was created. I didn't understand. That's why I just kind of let him ramble on, and I was out of there.
What is that? What does that mean? You know what? The book is called The Not So Intelligent Designer, Why Evolution Explains the Human Body and Intelligent Design Does Not. I want you to go find your friend, and I want you to look him in the eye, and I want you to say, just hush. All right? I just want you to tell him, you just hush, because you're making no sense. Okay. Thanks for the call. Have a wonderful day, okay?
Hey, love you, Seth. Take care, buddy.
Take care. Just hush. Y'all just hush. A couple more. 206. Thanks for waiting. You're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
This is Ed. How are you?
Ed, thanks for calling. Talk to me. What's on your mind?
Forgive me, I'm overcoming a cold right now, so if I seem a little muffled, that's probably one of the reasons why.
That's cool.
But I just wanted to thank you for all you do, and it's a privilege and an honor to talk with you for just a couple minutes.
Oh, it's my pleasure. What's on your mind?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to go back to that caller about the Alice Cooper thing real quick.
Mm-hmm.
As I did a little Google search and found that his dad was a pastor, and he, after years, apparently, I found an article that talked about how he came back to, finally believe in Christ again.
Okay, so Alice Cooper's father was a pastor, not Alice, but he himself holds to Christianity.
He does now, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah, and it says his grandfather was an evangelist, so he grew up in church, blah, blah, blah.
Okay. Well, thanks for the clarification.
So, obviously, no. Yeah. I have a friend in Arizona that used to talk to him a lot when I was a evangelical Christian back in the day. He used to have a restaurant, or they used to have a restaurant in Phoenix, and he would go there all the time and have sports shows there. They used to broadcast. I think it's near one of the stadiums in Phoenix. But anyway, what I wanted to touch on real quick, or just go, that caller from Kentucky, he had some great points. And one of the things that came to mind was kind of in lines of what I wanted to talk about, which was recoveringfromreligion.org. They have a great chat thing. I'm sure you guys some of the callers probably have heard of that before. And it's a great resource. They have a chat line, and then you can actually call and talk to somebody. So for people who are kind of in that position, you can call them and get actual, trained people, volunteers that can discuss those things with you and kind of work with you to, kind of deal with these situations with your church or your family as well. So just want to throw that out there as another resource.
It's a great organization, recoveringfromreligion.org. Thanks for the reminder. Appreciate you.
Yes. And then lastly, I just wanted to, I was a Christian for about 20 years. I didn't grow up in Christianity, but I started studying psychology, and actually before your show came on today, I was watching a video you did with Shannon Q a while back, probably last year. And I was looking into that side when I was I was looking into biblical counseling and Christian counseling before I came out of religion. And she has a lot of not interesting, but really good points as far as how detrimental actual mental health is to Christian counseling and biblical counseling is to mental health counseling. And I didn't know if you had any, obviously, thoughts about that. But
you can actually, you mentioned recovering from religion. There's another website, Secular Therapist, and what they do is they go through and they find mental health professionals that, they may be believers in their personal life, but their practices are secular, meaning that they don't do marriage or divorce or recovery counseling with a religious worldview, backstory, edict, model. What they do is they use actual mental health science, for lack of a better word, non-superstitious practices to help people deal with everyday life. And, you're right. If someone's coming at it from they believe that the reason somebody's struggling in their heart with depression is because Adam and Eve sinned in the garden and we're all deserving of hell and someone needs Jesus, that's a problem. Those people do exist.
Yeah.
But fortunately, Secular Therapist Project has provided a system where you can vet many of those counselors and therapists so that we weed out the magical people and we get down to the scientific people. And so that's a great resource if someone's looking, okay?
Yep. Great resource. Excellent resource.
All right.
Yep.
Have a great day. Thanks for calling. See you later.
Yep. Thanks, Seth.
All right. Trying to move through as many of these as I can to make sure I'm doing my due diligence. 910, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
Hey, Seth, it's Josh. How you doing?
Josh, hey, I'm hearing a lot of back noise over there. Are you doing dishes or something? What's going on?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm at the office, so I had to
all right.
Go back.
Better now. All right, talk to me. What's on your mind?
Oh, well, Seth, a while back I actually called you, and I was stuttering the entire time because, ironically, I felt like I was talking the voice of God because of how eloquently you speak.
Just stop.
It was a long time ago, but
just hush.
Huh?
But
I'm sorry.
I said just hush.
Yeah. But there is a frustration that I have, especially when it comes to religion, when they try to equivocate religion with morality, especially whenever they say, "Oh, you need to act more like Jesus," because, like how Hitchens even said back then, it wasn't until gentle Jesus, meek and mild, until Christianity was introduced to hell. So to even try to equivocate and try to say that Christianity or even any religion at all would be a basis of moral is actually unfounded, because in fact, people pretty much have to be cafeteria Christians in order to be a moral person, right? You pretty much have to pick and choose the moral verses to be a modern secular moral person. And so I feel like that's how we became more moral.
Yeah, and all the moral stuff that they do is borrowed from humanism anyway, right? It's not like we didn't need the Bible.
Exactly.
Like don't kill people existed before the writing of the Ten Commandments. There's a great book. I referenced this in my own book that's coming out it's a book by A.J. Jacobs called The Year of Living Biblically, where the guy tried to live as close as he could to the literal verses of the Bible. And he did a 12-month stint. He let his beard grow out, and he walked around with a staff and sandals, and he had all these things that he did. He blew the ram's horn at the beginning of every month, and all these other things. But there was so much in the Bible that he had to skip over, because had he lived biblically, if he had stoned the adulterer and done those things, he would have gone to prison. So what you say is absolutely right. It's not even tenable. It's not possible, really, to morally live a biblical morality. So,
speaking of books, I've been actually working on one for 5 years. Lord knows whether or not I'm actually going to finish it, but it's called "Debunked: The Zombie Lies of the God Hypothesis." It's pretty much trying to list out all of the God arguments, because even though we do have all of these like atheist books, there's not one that definitively talks about pretty much all the arguments made by the religious.
Tell me the title of the book again.
Oh, it's not out. It hasn't been. I pretty much did all the research, but I haven't written all of it. But the working title is "Debunked: The Zombie Lies of the God Hypothesis."
Okay.
Yeah. And do you have time for me to ask you one question?
Yeah, sure.
Or do you need to zip?
No. Okay. Go ahead. I mean, let's make it quick, but hit me.
Sure. Okay. So I noticed that, especially Dillahunty and Raw, they have a problem with T.J. Kirk, a.k.a. the Amazing Atheist, sometimes, especially with a lot of his controversial views. But TJ and you actually were congruently one of the reasons why I deconverted in the first place, like TJ being so abrasive and you being more mild-mannered and kind. And I almost want to make the argument that maybe like both of those on the spectrum are necessary, even though one may be a bit more, rude or whatever. But because what was that book? Why Are Atheists So Angry?
By Greta Christina.
By Greta Christina. Yeah, it's almost sort of like appeals to that perspective, even though like obviously there can be fans that are toxic in his group. But if you like, do you like have an opinion on that or his way of presenting his arguments? I know he pretty much does a podcast now, so he doesn't necessarily go through it all the time. But just wondering if
I'm not. I don't really want to go down that road as much.
Okay, no, that's fine. I understand.
I don't want to be a coward about it. I will say at the front end that no one can tell you that someone's style did not help you. It sounds to me like what he did was part of your journey, and I think that has merit. I will say beyond that, from my vantage, I'm not a fan. I don't like the toxicity and the rudeness and the controversy that it just doesn't work for me. Yeah. There's
a lot of baggage.
There are a lot of opportunities to be kinder or to be, people often will believe that kindness is weakness, or that high ground is somehow surrender and you've got to get down in the mud. And I don't know that I agree with that. I'm just not, that's not really my thing. I don't follow his stuff, so I'm not speaking to anything he's done recently, but my introduction to him years ago, it just didn't resonate, wasn't something that I was a fan of. So, but whatever, if it worked for you, then I'm glad you're out. I'm glad that you found your way to where you are. And I mean, there's a lot of room for different styles. It would just be my hope that those styles don't sacrifice our own humanity or humanism or kindness.
I hear you.
That's just a concern that I have, and that's just kind of where I fall on it. Okay.
Yeah, and thanks, and thanks for your book, and thanks for your podcast, and thanks for you're not alone and you're not crazy. Thank you for pretty much. Thank you for being you and your godlike voice and intimidating me over the phone like a few years ago.
You're a great call, and I appreciate you, and I thank you so much for being here, and have a great week. Okay.
Thank you so much, Seth.
All right, see you later. I mean, I don't really want to talk about too much about other, what we do. Let me back up. There is this term that's difficult to define. It's called the atheist movement. Well, how do you define the atheist movement? It's really a series of movements all working, and these gears operate different machines out there. And so, I don't think we live in a box, and if someone's waving the atheist banner, what they do and what they say spills out onto much of the rest of the movement, whatever, however we define that. And, I'm not going to tell anybody else what to say and what to think. That's not my shtick. But I would hate for someone to Google search atheist or atheism and stumble upon someone who is just being cruel. I would hate to see someone who was curious, going through a season of doubt, and didn't respond to, that sort of hard-edged thing. And the first thing they're introduced to is shouting and name-calling and turning the screw and controversy. And I would really, as far as some of the divisions in the movement, here and there we see, people leave organizations and there's infighting and there's drama. And I mean, this is just part of the human condition. Those who think that atheists are immune from these very human things, from flaws and failings and biases, sometimes being governed by our emotions or fighting passionately and going too far and dividing. I mean, this is just, it's part of being human. And unfortunately, it's going to happen in atheist circles. But I'm thinking about myself back in 2007 when I was searching, and if I had stumbled upon some of the really nasty stuff first, if that would have affected my journey or my perspective, my opinion, would it have caused me to hesitate instead of digging deeper? And it's interesting because one of the first guys I stumbled upon was someone who could never be considered weak, and that's Christopher Hitchens. And Hitch wasn't weak. He was one of the strongest, most vocal. You never had to guess what he was thinking. He would just put it right out there, bold, front and center. And I didn't always agree with Hitch, but I'll tell you, he was a kind man. When he stood on stage with a religious antagonist in front of often a religious audience, he didn't start by going after people, tearing them to shreds and whatnot. He operated with a strength that was also tempered by a humanistic worldview. And, if I was to, Hitch was his own voice. But I would like to emulate the best parts of Hitch in my own activism. Speak your mind. Don't be afraid to challenge, even ridicule, religion. Ideas are fair game. But when it comes to human beings, let's try to find opportunities to de-escalate, to not throw gasoline on the spark, to not do controversy for clicks, and to instead try to raise the tide that raises all ships. Does that get as much attention? Is it sexy? Will it get, all of the YouTube traffic? Probably not. But that's just kind of where I fall on the deal. And, if TJ stuff works for someone, if it's helped someone, I'm not ever going to be the person to say that that's invalid. But his style is not my own. That style is not my own. And that's just kind of where I fall. I appreciate you so much for listening. Thanks to all of my calls and callers. I hope your week is a wonderful week. We'll come back here and do it again next time on the Thinking Atheist podcast.